the essence of Pitta, which is really key to get to, I think it's very important to understand the essences of things, so that you can, if you can connect with the essence, then every other possibility of understanding around that subject is possible. And the essence of Pitta is really to do with light. It's to do with light, because we are all children of light. In the sense that, in the same way that Vata, the essence of Vata is energy, and the essence of Kapha is love. But the essence of Pitta is light. And light has the power to create and to transform. And so, when we're talking about transforming the world and making the world a better place, we are enacting Pitta energy, and we are becoming the servants of the sun, in a way, because the sun has an unconditional creative benevolence about it. It can also be demonic if it shines too strongly, but in balance, the sun is benefic. And certainly for us in this country, it's a point of worship, isn't it? So, in the body, that transformative energy is required to be able to ripen and mature the tissues. If you think about that process of the digestive transformative energy in the body, that energy is needed by every cell of the body, regardless of which tissue it is in, which dhatu it is in, whether it's rasa, rakta, mamsa, medas, asti, maja or shukra, it doesn't matter. It's still that process of ripening and maturing the cells so that they are complete in their function is absolutely essential. And because it's fire, it does need containment, because if you think of fire, it cannot in itself be useful unless it is contained and directed in some way. Which is why in Ayurveda they say that Pitta Dosha is fire and water, because the water acts as not only a container but also a carrier for that fiery Pitta energy. So it initiates all the digestive and transformative. So what do we mean by transformative? If you think about the chemistry of the body, we think about enzymes and hormones and neurotransmitters, bacteria, flora, the gut flora. These are all part of the Pitta armory, if you like, to be able to transform and to create one thing from one thing into another. People who have a Pitta temperament, and there are a lot of people in the yoga world with Pitta temperaments, tend to have medium bodies, strong appetites, not surprisingly, sharp penetrating minds. So if you think about the qualities of Pitta, which we're going to go over, we're going to revise in a moment, reactive bodies, hot-headed, critical and judgmental natures, and sweat a lot. So we're revisiting things we've already covered in the first day, and like cold drinks and sweets. So out of that, can you pick anything out of that you already know from the qualities or from the qualities and the taste? What can you pick out of that? Why does Pitta like sweet?
They gain a lot of energy with all their fieriness, so they need to replenish that.
It could be replenishing, but it's actually probably more to do with pacifying, because the taste of sweet pacifies the fire, according to Ayurveda. And why would Pitta people, why are we, or why is the Pitta in us critical and judgmental? Why? What's the thinking behind that urge to criticize and judge?
To get resolution and to move on.
To get resolution is that's one thing. That's a nice way of putting it, I think. It's a nice way. But what is it? What makes you criticize someone?
I think there's a Pitta meant to be like transformative.
That's it.
So if you're criticising, trying to change and
That's it.
something from, trying to make it different,
Yes.
make it so it follows what you think. So it's
Exactly. So you have Pitta, the Pitta in all of us, doesn't matter what temperament we are, the Pitta in all of us has a model of perfection. The model of perfection, and that is, and that Pitta energy is constantly striving to improve upon things, because its essence comes from light, solar. It's a solar thing. And the sun is always looking to nourish its children, to move them on, to give them more light, more energy, more joy, more fun, more radiance. And this is just an instinct. It's a solar instinct. That creative urge, the creative force, is linked intrinsically to the evolutionary force of life. And so that evolutionary force, that instinct to evolve, implies that evolution requires some kind of constant adjusting and improving, doesn't it? So the Pitta mind in all of us is constantly looking to improve and change and modify and upgrade all the time. And that urge is always there. Because it's an archetypal urge. It's not something that was kind of created by people necessarily. Of course, there's how it's implemented and applied is another thing. But the essential urge is there everywhere. So the location of Pitta, we know it's in the small intestines. We know it as stomach acid. Sweat and sebaceous glands are implied and associated in the Pitta processes. It's also associated with blood and lymph, because as we mentioned yesterday, the red blood cells carry the vitality, the oxygen, to the tissues. And the eyes have an affiliation, because we learned on day one that there is an affiliation between our senses, our sense organs, and the doshas and the elements themselves. So there's a link, there's a chain of associations there between those. And the motor organ that drives us forwards in the world so that we are able to move forwards in life and fulfill our desires, because desire arises from the need to experience life, is the feet, symbolically and physically the feet. And so when this Pitta is out of balance, we experience it within ourselves and within society and within our community and within the people that we're sharing our house with as toxic blood, which usually expresses as skin problems, which is the last one, heat, inflammation, and infection. Just kind of happens. So we see this as we can interpret this as, in some ways, a positive and a negative thing, because there is, for the whole, we talked about on day one this idea of forest fires spreading, because the quality of spreading is part of this Pitta energy. But at the same time, we can say that it all happens and passes potentially very quickly. So that is something that can be said about Pitta illnesses. They come in a craze and it's all very dramatic, and then they pass very, very quickly. So if we narrow it down to the qualities, because we're really focusing a lot on qualities on this course, so that it's something we can take away. Hot, sharp, light, and liquid. And we can interpret these qualities not just literally in the body, but also metaphorically. So not only do we experience heat, physical heat through burning sensations in our body, through the generation of heat to warm our bodies. So Pitta people warm up much more quickly than Vata and Kapha, because Vata and Kapha are more cold in constitution because they need Pitta energy to heat them. So if your Pitta energy is low, you will actually feel cold a lot more. So if Pitta energy is low or it's trapped in some way, then you'll feel more cold in the body. And also that heat is expressed in emotion. And that can be a very inspiring thing. You know, if a very well-adjusted Pitta person, or a Pitta person on a good day, let's put it that way, will walk into a room and you'll see their light. You'll feel their radiance, their warmth, their heat, they'll cheer you up. But if they walk in on a bad day, and you'll feel it instantly, their anger, their irritation, their frustration. Isn't that right? Isn't that you? Isn't that all of us to some extent? That comes from the Pitta energy. And this heat there are certain parts of the body that are hotter than others. Do you know the hottest parts of the body? Well, this is kind of obvious from this, but it's not just the head, but it's also the liver. The liver generates huge amounts of heat, and muscles generate a lot of heat. So, because the head is one of the hottest parts of the body, a Pitta person that's going to have excesses of heat, they say that Pitta people usually go grey and bald very quickly because of that excess heat that's being pushed out through the head. And of course, Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, controls the head, and it's a fire sign. It's a cardinal fire sign. So it's a get up and go fire energy, the rulership of Aries is the head. So that's a kind of a symbolic link between the two. Sharp mind is something that it's a Pitta gift. So Pitta people learn very quickly. They get irritated by people who don't learn quickly. It's so obvious, it's so clear, why can't you see this? That the logical mind, the sharp mind, the penetrating mind, this is the Pitta mind at its best and at its worst. Because this kind of mind can also be the kind of mind that sees solutions that no one else can see and gets frustrated because of this need to transform, to move on, to progress. It's that kind of feeling. So sharp teeth, sharp gaze, you know. If a Pitta person or a Pitta aggravated person or the Pitta in you suddenly arises, how do you know? You only have to look into their eyes, don't you? Someone who's angry, the anger is seen in the eyes. You know immediately. They don't even have to say anything, do they? And that, again, there's that resonance between Pitta and the eyes. The eyes are a mirror to Pitta energy. Sharp memory, intolerant, impatient, irritable. We talked about that. Light frame. So because of this fire, if this fire energy is abundant and it is in balance, then the body should also be in balance, because the fire energy is responsible for good quality. The fire energy of Pitta works hand in hand with the overall metabolic power of Agni. They work together. Pitta is like the captain, and Agni is the sort of the boss, if you like, and says, Pitta, you make sure you break down this food properly, you make sure you do this, do that. So Agni gives the orders and Pitta follows them. So Pitta people are light framed but can't tolerate bright light. So there is a sensitivity to light. In other words, there's already enough abundance of light energy within a Pitta person. They don't need that much more from the outside. So a Pitta in person in balance will not necessarily crave more light from the outside. So there's going to be a sensitivity to light, fair-skinned.